There are roughly 500,000 children aged birth to young adult in the U.S. foster system. This group of children can be subjected to many disruptions that can lead to problems later on in adulthood. Researchers have found that compared to the general population, children who have spent even a small amount of time in the foster system can go on to experience teen pregnancies, dropping out of high school, being incarcerated, and having to rely on public aid and housing. This topic hits home for me because my family has had a deep connection with foster care. When they were in college, my parents provided respite and mentoring for foster teens, and later when I was in 3rd grade, my parents adopted my sister from foster care. I was so excited about this. For years, I had wanted a sister, going so far as to write to Santa and ask only for a sister. However, I got more than I asked for when 6 months after that, my sister's twin sister also joined our family. My sisters and their 4 older siblings were split up during their time in foster care, and their situation, sadly, is not uncommon. It is also not uncommon for foster children to experience moves. On average, a foster child can experience 2 to 4 moves every year. In the case of my sisters and their 4 other siblings, between the 6 of them, they moved over 40 times during their time in foster care. As you can probably imagine, it can be very disruptive for a child who has experienced trauma in their birth family to have to start over again and again with new families and new schools. Many times, moves happen with very little notice. In the case of my sisters, they often were not able to take all of their personal belongings with them, and that left them with many feelings of insecurity. Clothing is a very important means of self-expression for children, especially those in adolescence, so it is very important for them to have a consistent access to clothing that not only fits their body, but also their personality. My sister's experience in foster care inspired them in 7th grade, with the help of my parents, my brother, and me, to start a nonprofit that aimed at giving clothing that was trendy and having wardrobe assistance for foster teenagers. We began this endeavor with a single clothing drive at our junior high school. We expected maybe a few dozen pieces of clothing by the end of the week, but we were absolutely shocked when we received over 2,000 trendy clothing items. We had no idea how to run a nonprofit. We only knew that we had something that we cared deeply about. So we learned as we grew. By the end of our first year, we served 55 foster children. We did this by hosting weekend clothing giveaways 4 times a year. We borrowed a space in a local church, and we unpacked hundreds of bins of neatly folded clothing that we often stored in rented storage units. We would then have children who were referred by social workers come in and receive about 2 weeks' worth of clothing. However, during this time, we learned that many foster children were unable to attend these events due to the very specific scheduling we had. This inspired us in our 3rd year to develop a personalized care package system. This would have foster children fill out forms that specified their sizing, favorite color, style preferences, and even things like their favorite sports teams. We would then have volunteers specifically pack care packages catering to every single child's preferences. We would then carefully pack them and send them off to social workers who would give them to foster children. This allowed our organization to grow immensely. Not only were we able to better serve the needs of foster children as a whole, but we were able to serve many more children. Before we knew it, the numbers of care packages we sent out were in the thousands. We were so excited by our growth, but we already had our eyes set on our next big goal, acquiring a permanent space. Now, none of us knew where we'd find a permanent space or how we'd get the funds to do so, but we just kept supporting foster children, raising awareness, and consulting experts. During this time, we got into grant writing, and we gained many funds that we were able to use to support our individual operations. Then, my sisters and my brother entered a national competition aimed at showcasing youth philanthropy. We were absolutely shocked when we were named the champion. With the grant provided from the competition, we were able to rent a permanent space. The following year, we more than tripled our fundraising goals, and not only were we able to rent a permanent space, but we were able to have it professionally designed so it would look like a store that any teen would want to be in. Opening a facility allowed us to further expand our operations and allow our organization to grow. Our care packaging system got even better than it was before, and we were able to serve many more foster children because we are open multiple times per week now, as opposed to only 4 times per year. We have also been able to improve our overall quality of the items that we distribute. For example, we give multiple pairs of completely new underwear, we give a blanket, and we give a hygiene pack, along with all the other items that the children get. My siblings and I are often asked how we, as teenagers, took an idea and put it into action to help solve a problem that we saw in our community. Over the past 5 years, we have learned 3 big lessons. First, let your passion fuel your work. Taking an idea and using it to solve a problem in your community can require you to exert a lot of time and personal energy, so it is critical that you focus on something that you care deeply about. My overall concern for my sisters and their experiences in foster care motivates me on days where I'd rather be at home playing my video games instead of folding hundreds of t-shirts. Second, act on your ideas. It is very easy to get paralyzed by the fear of the unknown, so it is critical that you maintain your momentum after conceiving an initial idea. For example, my family really wanted a private space. However, we were petrified about the idea of trying to find a way to raise the funds. So we just kept focusing on our smaller goals, and as we accomplished those, eventually our bigger dreams were realized. Lastly, don't let your young age limit you. Never assume that a young person can't make an impact in the community or that they won't be taken seriously until they are adults. Almost all of our donors and many of our volunteers are teenagers. And sure, we've had the guidance of our parents, our board members, and the people of our community, but overall, my family's nonprofit has been a youth-initiated endeavor. We've had so many opportunities to talk to audiences both big and small, and we have learned over the past 5 years that our community is willing to come together to help support a youth-initiated endeavor. The problems faced by older foster children in our country are huge. The more we learned about them, the more my family wanted to help, but we often found ourselves asking, if governments and professionals can't find a solution to some of these problems, then what could we possibly do? But we just took our passion and we focused it into one area, that being the dignity and self-expression of foster children, and we allowed it to make an impact. We are always reaching for our next big and better goal, and we know that with the support of our community, the sky is the limit. Thank you.